When you open Inventor, go ahead and click on the File tab here. We're going to start with a brand new project. In here, you will see that you have several templates. We have English, United States, for English, the metric system, and mold design. You want to make sure that you pay close attention to these, because if the book calls for you to start a metric project or a metric part, then you need to make sure that you start with a metric file. Otherwise, it will do it in inches or whatever was previously opened. So we're going to start with English right now. You notice that you have 4 different options here. You can start with creating a part, a assembly, a drawing, and a presentation. For the first few times that you will be using Inventor, we will just create parts, and then you will learn how to use the drawing and then how to use the assembly. But for right now, we will start with a standard IPT. IPT stands for Inventor Part. Okay, so we're going to click on here and say create. Once a part file is open, this is how your screen will look. This is what we call a model space. And you will see over here that you have different tabs for different types of commands. Each one of these tabs have a different series of control panels. Like this is the create control panel. This is the modify control panel, explore, work features, and so on. I call this the model tree. In here, you would see some of the things that inherent with every part. Model, we have the model states right now, how we are viewing the object. Next, different forms like an isometric view, a top, front, right side, etc. Origin will give us different planes and axes and a center point that are already incorporated in the model. And then at the end, you have this end of part feature here. I will explain how to use this at a later date. But I will come back to this every so often. Every time we create something, you will see that I will refer back to the model tree. Okay, to start a file or part, we're going to start with a sketch. Now, I did tell you that this is the model space. And so in here, you have 2 different options. I just clicked on this little arrow here, and you will see that you have a 2D sketch or a 3D sketch. We will start with a 2D sketch. And then you will notice that you have these planes that are available for you. We have the XY plane here. If I hover over the corner of this plane, notice that over here it will highlight, or if I come to the model tree, it will highlight it too. So either way. All right, we're going to start with the XY plane. This is how I'm starting it. If the book calls for a different plane, then go ahead and do what the book asks. So I'm just going to click on this one now. We have entered the sketch space. So a couple of things that you need to be aware of is that the tab has changed. The sketch tab has been highlighted, and notice that some of the commands have changed. The tree is showing sketch 1, and this is really important for us to be aware of, because each one of these sketches will be a different space. So if you made a mistake in one sketch and you need to come back and fix it, you need to make sure that you're in the correct sketch to be able to fix whatever problems you have. At the end of the sketch, once you're done with it, you can click on finish. And when you click on finish, you will see that now you have a sketch. I didn't draw anything in there, so nothing is showing in my model space. But notice that now I have a new item here that is called sketch 1. That is now we're outside of that sketch. To be able to go back to it, I'm going to hover over sketch 1. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to edit sketch. This will bring me back to the original sketch that we had. All right, when I try to draw anything, this right here, these 2 lines are the X and the Y axis. Notice here that we have this icon here that has the X and the Y axis here to let us know what orientation we have. On this side here, we have the view cube, And in here, we can definitely change. As soon as we change any view, then our sketch or our vantage point will change. So I'm going to create a series of lines. Notice that if I come and try to be as vertical as possible, I have a little icon that appears that is putting a constraint on the line, which means that I am creating a vertical line. If I come to this side, notice that little box now has horizontal lines. So that means that I am creating a horizontal line. Once I click on either here or here with those icons being visible, then that means that that line is constrained and I cannot change the angle of that line because of that constraint. So we need to be aware of constraints. They are very helpful whenever we're drawing something on Inventor, but at the same time, they can be a little confusing. So I'm going to just click on this line here. Okay, notice that now that icon has appeared and is kind of permanently fixed there. Now, when I go and draw an angled line, I've got to make sure that I don't create maybe something like this if I don't want perpendicularity relationship between the two lines that I am about to create, and that I keep this open if I don't want that 90-degree angle. So I'm going to click on here now. With the third one, if I click on here, is going to create a perpendicular line between the previous line and the new line that I'm creating. If that's not what I want, I need to make sure that that constraint is not visible, and I'm going to click somewhere around here. Now, if I come all the way down here, notice that I am creating a another constraint there. So every time you see a box that creates before you click somewhere to create a line, then that means that that is creating a constraint between lines, and that might be something that you don't want. In this case, this is a parallelism uh, constraint, and that is not a constraint that I want, because that means that that line will remain vertical. It will become parallel with this line here. And so instead, if I want it to be free flowing for this item, then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it doesn't to click on anything. I don't see a little rectangle or a square that appears whenever I create this next line. So I'm going to create that line here. If I want this line to be horizontal, then I will go ahead and create that. Notice that now I have a little box, and that box is a perpendicularity constraint. So that means that it's making it perpendicular with my original line. Notice in the original line too, there's a little perpendicular symbol there as well. So that's letting me know that it is constraining it to that line specifically. Okay, now that I clicked on that, then it puts that perpendicularity constraint there. I'm going to create another line here, making sure that it's free flowing and I don't constrain to anything else. And in here, I'm going to let it constrain to this point, so I can come and hover over this point here and maybe click on here, bring this back. I want this to be in line with this point, so I can, and I want it to be vertical. So I'm going to click here and then close. This is the start of the mechanical tiger head. Now notice that whenever I created all of these lines, I didn't care about the size of my lines, because I will change all of those sizes as follows. I'm going to go to dimension. Okay. These dimensions are within my sketch. Okay. This is how I'm going to manipulate my sketch to make sure that the sketch follows the parameters that I need to follow. Okay, so to dimension this line, I am just going to click on the line, drag it, place the dimensions somewhere, wherever I want it. And once it does this, then I am going to actually type the correct dimension here. Okay. Now notice that once I put my first dimension, everything else will actually dimension proportionally according to the size that I just created. Now I'm going to add this dimension here. The next dimension, I'm going to add is the distance between this line. So I'm going to click on the line itself and this point here, and I'm going to bring this dimension out. Okay. Now to place an angle dimension, I need the angle between these two lines. So I need to make sure that I click on the line. If you see this dot, then what it will do is it will create a dimension between the center point of the line, and that's not what I need. I need to make sure that I click on the line and not on the midpoint there. So I'm going to click on the line here, and then I know that it wants to give me a dimension, but I'm going to ignore that and click on the next line. This will create an angle dimension. Okay, so I'm going to place it right here, and I'm going to put 50. And sometimes your dimension will or your object will distort. You can do two things. To get out of any command, go ahead and click the escape button twice, and that deselected the dimension. And then I can click on a line maybe and just kind of move things around if I'm not comfortable with how that distorted my image. But if you're comfortable with it, you don't have to do this unless everything else is dimensioned. So I'm going to go ahead and click dimension again and continue with those dimensions. I'm going to place this dimension from this point and the line here, and that is 0.1. And I'm going to do all of these same dimensions on this other side. Okay, so far so good. Now, the last dimension that I did not place is the distance between here and there, and that is 0.315. Okay, so now I'm going to hit escape a couple of times, and now you see that if I try to move my object, it can be moved, but the whole sketch is seen as a unit, and that just means that it is constrained within itself. Now, if you see, all my lines are, in your case, it might be purple or blue. And in here, at the bottom of your screen here, it says 2 dimensions needed. That's because we need all objects to be fully constrained. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that everything is constrained. And for us to constrain them completely, then we have to attach it to our board because right now our sketch is just free floating in space, and we want to attach it to this point. This is the center point of your space, and that would be 0 comma 0 just in the Cartesian coordinate system. If I was to bring this point and place it right there, notice that all my lines are black. Now, um, when all my lines are turned black like that, that just means that the object is fully constrained. Notice at the bottom here that I fully constrained it by doing that. If your lines do not turn black, then that means that they're not fully constrained. So I could, as you saw, I just shifted my object to that 0 comma 0, and then that links it and locks it in place according to the coordinate system. Uh, Another way to do this is by clicking these 2 points maybe and putting a 0 dimension there, and then clicking between this point and putting a 0 constraint here maybe, and then I have locked it. Once all your lines are black, that means that it is fully constrained and you are ready to continue. I will go ahead and finish the sketch. And just to remind you, that was sketch number 1. And so now I am able to put a thickness to this. And according to the book, you need this to be 0.1 inch thick plate. And so now I'm going to go to the extrude command. And in here under the distance, I'm going to put 0.1. And there you go. Once you hit OK, the software has created a 3D model of your original sketch. Notice that the sketch is gone. That doesn't mean that it's gone. It just kind of consumed it. And then if I was to change the different angles or positions here and play with my view cube, you can actually rotate the object any way you want. You can also click the shift button and hold down your scroll to pivot your point to change the angle in any possible way. Again, I'm holding down the shift button and the middle scroll button in your mouse at the same time to pivot it. If I want to stop doing that, I just let go of the middle button uh, and take over again if I want to continue. Notice that the view cube also rotates around according to how I'm rotating my mouse. Another thing that you can do is using the scroll in the middle of your mouse, you can zoom in and out. Okay, and then we can also pan. That means move your object from one side to the other. The way I'm doing this is just holding down the middle scroll button in the mouse without holding the shift key. If I want to come back to the front, I can come back to the view cube and click on that.